I never asked to belong. I wasn't welcome from the start, and I learned to put up with it. My history with his family, my ex, the father of my son, was always a silent negotiation, an unstable balance between social tolerance and veiled rejection. It didn't matter how much he did. It didn't matter how many dinners she hosted, how many times she cared for her sick parents, or how much love she gave. To them, I was always the single mother, the one who arrived late, the one who stayed with him when he was no longer what they expected. I lived for years in that shadow. But when he died, I clung to one thought. At least in his will, he would acknowledge what we had built. The home, the son, the years we shared, our story. He had promised me. He looked me in the eyes from the hospital bed and said, "Don't worry. I made everything clear." And I believed him, because even with our differences, he had been fair. And because, deep down, I wanted to hold on to something that couldn't be erased, my place in their story, not out of ambition, but for dignity, because being recognized in that document was the last way to ensure that her family couldn't deny me. It was the only way for my son to know that, at least on paper, his mother was also part of it. I never imagined they would even take that away from me, and that they would do it with a fake smile and perfectly washed hands. Only a few days had passed since the burial, and there was already something thick in the air, like a tacit agreement not to mention me too much. The calls that used to come in to see how we were doing stopped abruptly. Nobody came to visit my son. Nobody asked about the papers. No one, except me, seemed interested in fulfilling his last wishes. And that was a sign. I was the one who called the lawyer. I was the one who requested the date for the official reading of the will. I was the one who made sure everything was in order, as he had promised me. On the other side, only silence. A pristine silence. Polite. Strategic. When I brought up the subject, they responded evasively. "He probably made everything clear. We'll have to wait and see what the lawyer says. We don't have any details." But I know that tone. I've known it since the first day I walked through that door as his partner. It's the same tone they used to call me my love in front of him. And that woman, when he was leaving, that silence spoke volumes. And he was yelling at me that they were up to something, that something had already been decided, and that most likely I had no place in that decision. The last time I spoke to her sister, she told me, "The important thing is that you stay calm." He always thought of what was best for his son. Not a word about me. Not a single mention of our lives. It was just that emphasis on the fact that the important thing was something else, as if I hadn't been his partner, as if my presence was an administrative error that they now wanted to correct. The lawyer's office smelled of old paper and reheated coffee. There were 3 chairs. Only one had my name on it. The other 2 were occupied by his sister and her husband, who greeted me with measured, almost diplomatic smiles. I arrived with sweaty hands. With a heart divided between hope and foreboding, the lawyer began bluntly. He read aloud. He listed the assets. He mentioned the apartment, the car, the bills, the insurance policy, the land we had planned to remodel someday. Everything was there, except me. My name did not appear, not even as a partial beneficiary, not even as a fiduciary custodian, not even as a symbolic witness, not even a line written with affection, not even a "for her who was by my side." Nothing. My son was indeed mentioned. A share was guaranteed for him when he reached the age of majority, but I didn't exist. My silence was stronger than any scream I could have let out. I stayed still, breathing inwardly so I wouldn't explode. His sister signed some papers as if she were signing a delivery receipt. She looked at me only once, an empty look, as if my presence there were an act of audacity. There were no explanations, just a cold, well-executed protocol. I felt myself being detached from their story with surgical precision, and the worst part of all was realizing that nobody was surprised. It was as if that decision had been agreed upon long ago, as if I had never been part of their family, just a footnote, a temporary inconvenience, a page they could tear out, without anyone noticing. I left that room with my ears ringing. Rage rose in my throat like a fever that wouldn't come down, but I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I didn't beg. Because I learned years ago that in that family, shouting is used as evidence of instability, and I wouldn't give them that gift. I limited myself to observing, listening to the barely audible whispers, the glances exchanged, the half smiles between them when they thought I wasn't watching. Every gesture was another brick in the wall they had built to keep me out. But while they celebrated their silent victory, I took notes. I didn't forget how his sister avoided my gaze when the papers were signed. I didn't forget the tremor in the lawyer's voice when he read the terms, as if he knew something was wrong. I didn't forget his brother-in-law's fake handshake, nor his comment as he left. At least the child is covered. That's what's important. Yes, the child, not my son. Because for them, I was just a biological passage, the temporary bearer of a surname that was never fully given to me. They walked ahead of me as I left the building, laughing softly, as if they had won an elegant battle. But I saw them. I saw their rehearsed confidence. I saw the ease with which they thought they had erased me. And it was at that moment, as I watched them walk away, that I decided I would not confront them in anger. I would do it truthfully, and with proof, because if they were going to make me disappear, they didn't yet know who they were dealing with. I went home that night without saying a word. My son asked me what had happened. I told him everything was fine, that we would talk later. It wasn't the right time. I didn't even have the strength to explain it yet. I locked myself in my room, took off my shoes, and collapsed onto the floor. Not the bed, the cold floor. Sometimes the body seeks contact with something that doesn't lie. 2 days passed like this. And then, it happened. I received an envelope in the mail. It had no return address. Just my name written by hand. I thought it was some overdue paperwork, another complaint, a bill. I opened it reluctantly, and there it was, a copy of the previous will, the one he had done 2 years before he died. In that version, it wasn't just my name that was there. I was in first place, with clear instructions. To my partner, for having been with me in the most difficult years, for supporting our home, for raising our son, I leave the property, the car, and the fund designated for medical emergencies. It wasn't just recognition. It was legalized love. It was concrete memory. It was written proof that I hadn't dreamed it all. I don't know who sent it to me. I still don't know. Maybe it was the lawyer. Maybe someone from the firm. Maybe one of those people who, from the shadows, cannot tolerate injustice. What I do know is that it arrived at the exact right time, and with that paper in my hand, it was no longer just my word against theirs. Now, I had something more, a real piece, and it was ready to use. The family organized a meal 2 weeks after the reading of the will. The excuse was to honor his memory, the reality, to seal the division, to formalize the new family order without me. I was invited at the last minute. Courtesy, not conviction. I decided to go, not because of them, but not for me. I arrived early. Too early, as always, when I want to check things out before the show starts. While the house was still settling in, I walked through the hallway that led to the kitchen, and that's when I heard her. Her sister's voice. Low, hurried, nervous. I don't understand why you didn't destroy that copy. It was a phone conversation. She thought she was alone. I told Ernesto I had made the change, but I never showed it to him. I only gave him the papers when he was drugged. He signed without looking. There was a pause. And if that old will turns up, everything gets complicated. She's going to take that wherever she can. I felt the blood draining down to my feet. I didn't need anything more. I had the copy. I had that confession. I had the complete puzzle. I carefully backed away, exited through the back door, and left without being seen. I didn't eat. I didn't toast. I didn't sit at that fake table. I spent the night writing. Everything. Dates, details, names, contexts. What I heard, what I found, what they hid from me. It was the chronicle of a premeditated exclusion, and I wouldn't share it in court. Not yet. I would share it where it would hurt them the most. In front of the whole family, in front of their friends, in front of the image they cared so much about. Because sometimes, the most powerful case isn't won in court. You win with truth, exposed at the most uncomfortable moment. The next invitation came with a tone of reconciliation. A family dinner, this time in honor of his posthumous birthday. A kind of ritual to maintain control of the narrative, to feign unity, to continue pretending that everything was in order. I accepted without hesitation. I arrived on time, dressed simply, in neutral clothing, with a thin folder under my arm. The room was full. Rehearsed smiles, empty hugs, fake toasts. Wait, observed. And when his sister stood up to thank everyone for being here and for honoring my brother's memory as he deserves, I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. No insults. I didn't cry. I just took out the folder, and I spoke. I want to read something. The silence was immediate. I opened the copy of the previous will. I read aloud the exact words he had written. The names, the wishes, the phrases that proved I was not an accident, or a footnote. And then I told what I heard. Every word, every sentence spoken in the kitchen, believing that no one could hear. I recounted how they excluded me, how they manipulated me, how they tried to erase me not only from the page, but from history. Nobody moved. Nobody swallowed hard. And then, I looked at his sister, straight into her eyes. I don't want their house. I don't want their money. But I want everyone here to know that they deliberately erased me, and that their silence was also a choice. I sat down. Nobody ever spoke of a tribute again. No one toasted again. Dinner ended quickly, and that night, I slept like I hadn't slept in months. Not because everything was resolved, but because finally, the truth was told, and I came back to life. After that night, silence returned, but this time, it was different. It was no longer the silence of contempt. It was the silence of those who had been exposed. Nobody called me. No one tried to apologize. But they didn't confront me either, because they knew that what he had said was true. And what's more, they knew that what I didn't say could also destroy them. The family, so concerned with appearances, was exposed before their own. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances began asking why I had been erased. What happened to the will? Why they never spoke of me? They did not respond. Because they couldn't. Because the only answer was shame. And that cannot be defended with speeches. My son, who had seen everything from the sidelines, hugged me that night like never before. Mom, now I know who you are. And those words were worth more than any inheritance. I didn't complain about anything else. I didn't go to court. I did not seek compensation. Because I understood that the real harm wasn't legal. It was emotional. And that one, I had already fixed it. With every word spoken, with every lie exposed, with every gesture that gave me back what they tried to take from me. My story. Today, I walk without a prestigious surname, without a large bank account, without inherited properties. But I walk with something that can't be bought or stolen. My dignity restored. My name clean. And a truth spoken aloud that burned their masks forever. There are battles that can't be won with lawyers. They are won with the truth in their throats, and the courage to not swallow it anymore. For months I believed that silence was my only option, that I had to accept what others decided, that I had to move on, even though they had erased me from the story as if I had never been there. But I learned that sometimes the only justice left is to speak out, and when you do it at the right moment, in front of those who fear the truth the most, you don't need to shout. It's enough to tell what happened, because there are truths so sharp that they cut even when spoken in a whisper. If you're seeing this and someone ever tried to erase you, if you were ever silenced for being the one who makes people uncomfortable, if you were ever made to feel like you didn't deserve to be written in anyone's story, I want you to know that your name matters. Your truth matters. And sometimes, all it takes is for someone to say it at the perfect moment, so that all those who made you invisible finally see you.